oh ma'am, you're too old for the job. 31, I was too old for the job. 45, again, I was too old for the job. Yeah.
You are listening to the Random Genius Media podcast.
Big welcome to Conversations with Wisdom. Today we're talking to Kalpana Sadasivan, aka KLO, aka Chechi. Trained actor, doting mum, loving daughter, gangster boss, superstar psychotherapist, and so much more.
Now, I don't recognize this person, Sheldon.
I do. And I'm sure everyone who's come in touch with you will attest to that fact. So don't be modest. Okay. So let's kick it off by giving us a sense of some of the early years, right, in your life. Tell us a little bit about your growing up years.
Well, that's the best part of my life because I grew up in Bombay. I was born in Bombay and I grew up there, and I was there till the age of 21. That's when I got married and left.
Okay.
That's been the best part of my life. I love Bombay, not because it's a metro or metropolitan city or whatever. I love it for all that it's taught me. And I remember that years after I got married, there was somebody in Kerala where I lived after I got married, in Trivandrum, who was amazed at my energy levels and my constant enthusiasm about learning everything and anything that comes my way. And then she happened to shift to Bombay. And then she came back and said, now I know why you're like that. Half your Bombayites are like that. So that love, the zest for life, the love for learning, the variety, the diversity, all that it taught me is probably what keeps me going even today. So the best part of my life were probably the first 21 years. And I miss Bombay like hell even today. So what it taught me was probably the need to accept life. That is something that has stood me in good stead always. Accept what comes my way and make the best out of it. So I'm not going to grumble if, instead of getting apples, I've got oranges. I'll probably make orange juice, as they say, or lemons. If you get lemon juice, then make lime juice. Yeah. So it's something I've learned from Bombay. And I did my BA from SIES College, and then I did my MA from the University Department of Economics.
Okay.
And while I was there and while I was studying in SIES College, probably from my second year, that is, we did the 11 years of schooling. I was the last batch of the 11 years of schooling. Okay. So from the second year, that is from my intermediate arts, I was also teaching in a school.
Okay.
And I was also giving tuitions.
Okay.
So generally, it's been a journey that has been all over the place. I've taught, I've written. My father had a magazine where I used to help him write the editorials. I used to do the entire proofreading because it was printed in our press. So while growing up itself, there were multiple things that I learned without even realizing it, because that was my life.
Okay.
Another important thing is that my father is a very, very political person. He's a member of the Communist Party of India. So our house used to be filled with these old-time leaders who believed in value-based politics.
Okay.
Who taught us the need to, respect another person's opinion. So the kind of friends that they would speak to would shock me, because these would be across the spectrum and they would be from diverse political parties, but yet they had great respect for their opinion and for them as people. It's not the slanging match that you see today. It's not the shouting and the disrespect and the lack of, acceptance, tolerance, respect, and everything that you see today. So I grew up in this atmosphere watching these human beings interact with each other. And it taught me a lot. And because of their backgrounds, for them, whether it was the person who washed their cars or brought milk in the morning or brought the newspaper, or whether it was the CEO of a company or the owner of a big mill or whatever it was, they were all treated at par with the same amount of respect. That probably is one of the best lessons I've had in life.
Wow. Excellent. So having lived in Bangalore and having lived in Gurgaon, I can also attest to the fact that Mumbai city has its own charm. Of course, these days, the word going around is you don't take the SNDT route. That's what we're trying to grapple with, because when it rains, the situation is just in a disarray, right?
I can imagine.
And I think probably the news channels were better back then because Arnab Goswami wasn't born.
Yeah.
So,
absolutely.
True.
Absolutely.
So what attracted you to the theatre and creative arts?
No, actually not theatre so much. Theatre was more Aisha. Aisha is a theatre person. So for me, it was more writing. I started off with writing.
Okay.
And I have always wanted to be a journalist, had always wanted to be a journalist. And when I was young and probably 18, 19, there were these journalist friends we had who were also a large chunk of the friends that my parents had, who used to tell my father that maybe you should allow her to become a journalist. But he was appalled at that idea. For him, I should have either become a doctor or then a professor or a bank officer. These are the only three things he could think of. So I had fought a lot with him because I didn't want to become a doctor. So not taking science was something that shocked him. And I had to do a lot of fighting at that point of time just to I had to fight a lot with him to allow him to let me study arts, if I may say so. So then finally, when he wanted me to do economics, I did economics and I did my PG. And then meanwhile, I got married. So I decided to bide my time. And when I went to Kerala and my kids were in school and, they were kind of independent. Like the younger one was probably 5 years old or something, and she was not so dependent on me. I did my journalism at that time. And there were multiple things. One of the things that shocked me is when I went for my admission for the interview, the questions that they asked me were so bizarre. They were like, are you married? Yes. Do you have children? Yes. Don't you have a job? I was also working as a clerk in the university at that time. And so I would have to do night class, which was a lot of work for me, but that's my business, not anybody else's. And then they had all bizarre questions that they asked me, which had absolutely no relevance to the fact that I was hoping to do my journalism and become a journalist. And why did I need a degree? Because I had lost out on time. I was about 30 at that time. And that was the last shot I could give, because I think in a month from that time that I gave the interview, I was turning 30. Then which means I won't get admission after that.
Okay.
So I asked them why they were asking me these stupid questions, which had no relevance to what I had come here for. And I said, if they're the ones who shape the thought of society, why is it that they're thinking in such a regressive manner? And since I thought I wouldn't get it, I gave them a good dose and came back. I said, if I was sitting on the other side of the table, I would appreciate a woman who's touching 30, who has a family, who has 2 children, who has a job and a husband and a whatever. And she still comes here to study night class, which means she means business, which means this has been at the back of her mind forever. So I said, I would say, give this person admission because she will do what she wants to do because she's come here of her own volition. My dad hasn't told me to come. My mom hasn't told me to come, or I'm not coming because it's the fad.
And put in twice the effort, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I left. And then I was called and told, no, you have got admission. And I was quite shocked. So anyway, then after I topped the list and everything, nobody would give me a job because they felt I was too old by then. And that was 31. I was 31 at that time, and 31 for them was like really old.
1 second. Say that again. You topped the list?
Yeah. So when I finished my journalism, I topped the list. I got like 2-3 gold medals and God knows what else.
Wow.
And I was so happy because I thought now I can quit my job and this will help me get a job. So by then my picture had come in the papers and everybody knew. And it's a small city and everyone knows everybody. And I used to do voiceovers once in a way. So there were lots of people who knew me. But nobody would give me a job. I say, oh yeah, we know you did very well. Congratulations. But you're too old. And believe me, that old was 31. Yeah. So I tried my best, but nobody was, and because they had a reason. There were lots of people at the desk who were much younger, probably in their 20s and 30s. And there were not too many women at that time. There were more men, more boys. And Kerala being Kerala, for all that progressive stuff that you hear, there are lots of things that we as Malayalis going there experience, which probably others will not. One of them is definitely misogyny at its best. Second is egos which are larger than 10 Empire State Buildings put together. And clearly they wouldn't like, working with a woman who was older because they'd be afraid she'll say something and I may have to listen. All kinds of convoluted thought processes, any which way. I never got a job. That was the sum and substance of the whole thing. And I was very, 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 very keen to leave this clerical job. I needed the job because I needed money, but that's not what I wanted to do. So then I started freelancing. So when I started freelancing, the good thing was, as a person, I am not very rigid, yeah, except this, craving to get into the media. There was no rigidity that, I will only get a newspaper job or I will only work in the radio station or whatever. So when when it was put out that I'm ready for freelance assignments, I started getting weird assignments my way, starting from freelancing for the Hindu. I would get comparing sessions. I would get classes to take at the press club and other places on maybe editing or something because I topped the list. I would also get subtitling assignments. I would get assignments to write scripts for documentaries and for short films, all kinds of things. But if you look at it, the core was writing. The core was communication. So I would just take it up like one greedy human being. 90% of them I would never get paid. I would be promised payment but never get paid. But I thought it was still experience, so I went ahead with it. And in a very short time, I quit my job. I didn't quit my job. Actually, I took long leave because the government offices do give you that freedom of being able to take 15 years leave. So I applied for leave and I would get some assignments, and I also had the financial responsibility of running my house in a sense because of certain personal things that were going on the side. So money was important. It was not like I was doing this for just out of luxury or for just out of my interest. It was also because I needed to make money and I wanted to do it in a field that I liked. So this was a very secure job. I mean, I could have stayed on there. I would have, been promoted as an officer or whatever, got a better salary, and I would have got a pension, which in India is something which is very, very important.
Sure.
But it would have killed me as a human being long back. So I gave up and I started doing all these freelance assignments. Some 4 months and it would dry up. Then I would cancel my leave and come back because again, money was important, and there would come a month when I had nothing and I couldn't afford that. So I would come back. So this happened over years, about 2-3 years maybe. I would go back, I would come back, I would keep doing that. And then slowly it caught on. So from doing voiceovers, writing documentary scripts, writing scripts for short films, helping people direct films, doing all kinds of things, I kind of learned a lot on the job. And then I started getting all kinds of assignments, and teaching was also one of them, which used to come very regularly. So I started taking up those assignments. And the good thing is that having left a job and moved into this whole space of freelancing, it gave me the freedom to only pick those assignments which I thought would help me learn and grow. There was no compulsion for me to do everything. So yeah, maybe a month I would have a little less money than I expected. Yeah. But 1 month I may have more. So it taught me to, live in a budgeted way so that I didn't splurge. But it also helped me take up what I wanted to. And along this way, there was also a lot of support from my children.
Yeah.
They used to wonder why I sit in the university and work in such a boring job. And they were young when I did this work. So I would have to take them everywhere I went because sometimes the assignments would be late at night. That was the best time for me, they'd be asleep. So there are 100 times when these kids have slept in the studio. Well, I've been recording or writing and talking to the director inside. These would be, they would sit outside the recording studio and they would sit and play with somebody, or they would go to sleep. And from there, it went on. One thing led to another. And there was also a breakdown of relations in my personal space. There was no rancor, there was no bitterness, there was no fighting, but it was a dead space. And my daughter had already moved out of Trivandrum to Bangalore. My son was finishing his engineering, and there was nothing that was helping me evolve as a human being. And I was getting a little tired of this journey of just, working and coming back, working and coming. Yes, learning some things on the job, but in the personal space, it was a zero. So one day I decided that the best thing probably for me would be to move out of this place. And I did. And I just took a random, a random call and came to Bangalore. I had very little money, and I just had my skill sets and my physical being and the certificates that were in my box, and 3 sets of clothes. And I started a journey all over again when I was 45 years old.
Okay.
So Bangalore for me was new. The only good thing was that my daughter was already studying here, so she's a very good friend of mine also. And a huge support system.
We'll come to your kids and
so then Aisha, so then what happened is taking this call was difficult. Taking this
taking life decision basically.
a decision to start life afresh. It was a very
Yeah.
nomadic thing. You keep
Yeah.
letting go where you are and starting all over again, pressing the reset button,
Yeah.
undoing what you've done. And at a time when I had established myself as a freelancer in Kerala. So
Got
there
it.
was a lot of work coming my way. I was actually in a position to say no to work, because if I wanted free time, I could actually say no to work because I had enough on my plate.
Got
So
it.
that's a position everybody aspires for. When you reach there to say, okay, I'm going to let go of this and start afresh again somewhere was difficult.
Yeah. Can
And then,
imagine.
yeah, and then I came to Bangalore, and then it's been a totally different kind of journey, but interesting nevertheless. Met,
So, yeah. So each other at On Mobile Global,
right,
right? In Bangalore. I joined in 2006. I don't know which year you joined On Mobile.
2004.
2004. So how did you make the transition from, or rather, I mean, you already had a background working for, in the creative space, right?
Right.
How did On Mobile happen? And especially the fact that you came to take over the studio operations, was that a planned move, or give us a little background on how that happened? Because that was also a pivotal decision in your journey, right?
Right, right. So planning is not something that defines my life at any place. It's serendipity all the time, yeah. So when
Okay.
I came to Bangalore for 2 months, I didn't have a job, and then I joined a small company as a
Okay.
trainer.
Okay.
So training, putting together all that I had done, training came naturally. Being a teacher someplace and learning and being in the communication space, writing. So putting all this, it wasn't too tough. But training in corporates is a very rigid space. So my boss used to have heart attacks every time he saw the way I spoke, or the casual way in which I spoke, or the casual way in which I dressed. He'd want me in business suits, and I'd look like a joker if I wore a business suit. So he would keep talking about paradigm shifts all the time. And he used to also be very embarrassed because he was younger than me. And for them, it's very difficult to talk to somebody who's older. So I worked there for about 3 months or 3.5 months, and then I met this person who is Aisha's friend's husband, Sandeep
Okay.
Pillai.
Okay.
So Aisha and Sandeep's wife are classmates.
Okay.
So Sandeep had come home once to pick her up or something, and he remembered seeing some of my TV interviews and hearing my radio talk or something, or listening to my voiceover, something. And we just got talking about what I was doing. And he
Okay.
said, so which media house are you working in? And I said, no, I'm a trainer. And then he was appalled and he said, why are you not doing work that you want to do? So I said, who's going to give me work that I want to do? Because every time I went looking for a job in Bangalore, again, it was the same story, repeat of the same Trivandrum story. They're very happy with my enthusiasm. They see me jumping around like a bunny rabbit and they're thrilled. Suddenly they look at my CV and say, oh, you're born in 1959. It's like I committed the biggest crime by being born in 1959. So they say, you're 45 years old. Oh, ma'am, you're too old for the job. 31, I was too old for the job. 45, again, I was too old for the job. Yeah. So he said, no, you just come to On Mobile and let's see what we can do. We have a studio there. So I took a chance, went there, and then met Praveen Chandra, who was heading the studio at that time. I think
Okay.
Sandeep and Praveen were handling the studio together, and
Okay.
both of them, being more ambitious than being okay handling a studio, were very keen to dump it on somebody and go off. Yeah, because they had better aspirations than
Other
sitting there.
motives. Yeah.
Yeah. So their agenda was totally different. So I took over there with some 2 people or 3 people, or I think out of them, 1 or 2 resented me coming there also. But it was a lovely journey. I learned a lot. I shared my experiences. I made some of the best friends I have in my life. And we grew the studio from just being a house where we were recording stuff to creating content, which I think
Yeah.
was one of the best things that we could do together. The 40 of us that were there are people today who are in the film
Yes.
industry creating music. There are at least 5 of them out there. There are
Yes.
people who are writing for cinema. There are filmmakers. All of them started over there.
Yes.
And
Yes.
all of them are small experiments. The little
For
content that
those who are listening in and don't know the background, I can attest to this, to the kind of talent that has bloomed on your watch, and definitely deserve tremendous kudos for that, right?
Thank you so much.
Presenting them a platform to shine, I think, and that was pretty evident. Even though we might have not worked directly, I think you've impacted a lot of us, and it must be said, I think. So continue.
Yeah, thank you so much. But I think that was just continuing what I got in my life. Continuing in the sense, at various times in my life, whenever I've taken decisions which are radical and which are totally unexpected of me at that point of time in my life, I have always had some random people believe in me. And I've met them through work. It's not like my family believed in me, except for my children and my sister, maybe. I think everybody thought I was the world's biggest fool giving up a government job and then moving out of Trivandrum. So everything I did was like not expected of somebody my age or in my position in life or whatever. So at every point of time, I would land up getting one random assignment. I don't know from where. There would be a person who believed in what I can do, and that would open up doors for me. Just the fact that somebody believed, somebody whom I don't even know from Adam or Eve would believe in what I can do, would give me the strength to believe in my own dreams. So I just had to do it for others. Simple. So when I met this bunch of children who were willing to work for a pittance in our company, when you know that, our bunch was a badly paid bunch, but they were willing to do it, the least I could do for them is believe in their creativity and allow them to push those boundaries that they had built around themselves, because this is a difficult space and you know it. You bring from the media yourself, you will know what a difficult space this is. So it always requires one to push one's boundaries all the time. Yeah. It's a continuous learning curve. There's no saying I can sit back, I've made it. No, this is even at 60 today, I still cannot say that. Even today I'm learning. Even today when I take up something new in our new company, when I take up a new assignment, I'm scared. Because I notice that I realize that there's so much more for me to learn. But this being a difficult space, the fact that, okay, somebody believes in you enough to give you an assignment is motivating and inspiring enough to learn more. So what I did was exactly this for my team. And together, I think we pushed several boundaries. The company didn't even know that we would grow to the extent that we had grown. I mean, they never thought that they would get into content creation. I remember the big fight I had to have to allow them to create, allow us to create, to let them say that, okay, you can do this in your free time. And then it became something that they started looking forward to, and then something that they started expecting from us. And I think that was the most beautiful part of that journey.
Correct. And then something they started monetizing.
Exactly. And then, of course, we became very valuable for them.
True. If fate had its way, you would be CEO of a company spun out of On Mobile, running a studio operation, one of the big studios today, for sure.
Yeah, but there is one thing that comes alongside all this. I'm not a very ambitious person. And in the sense, I don't have, let's say, corporate ambitions. There are several things in which I'm interested in. So writing is one of them. Drawing and painting is another. Cooking is one. Gardening is one. And I need to have time for all my interests. And more important than all this is the fun that I have with my family. And that fun I won't give up for anything else. So if you tell me you can become CEO, but you'll be out of the country half the time, no, thank you very much. I'd rather very much just sit there being a manager, doing what I need to do to keep me going financially.
Got it.
So I'd never have been CEO anyway.
Okay. So you've already talked about some of the issues I wanted to talk about. At 60, what's your biggest life lesson?
My biggest life lesson. Again, I would say probably what I learned as a child, which has stood me in good stead. And that is probably something that came from my generation. I don't know what Bombay is today, but the atmosphere that I grew up in, respect, acceptance were all very important. And those are the life lessons that have stood me in good stead. And that's also what's causing me immense distress today. Yeah. The fact that today we can't accept anybody who thinks differently, who looks differently, who behaves differently, who eats differently. And I think that's disgusting. Yeah, so that my biggest life lessons were, if you believe in yourself and if you respect the world around you and accept the world around you, then your dreams come true. Mine have, in a sense, come true. I don't have any complaints about life.
Awesome. What are you currently up to? What's keeping you busy?
Yes, so after about 11 years in the corporate space, which I was not, I am a people's person in the sense I love human beings. So I love the children I worked with. When I say children, including you, well, we're all so much younger than me, but the atmosphere I worked in was amazing. I had fun. I learned.
I like being called a child every once in a while. Nice. That's
Good. I'll
refreshing.
do that more often.
Yes.
So after about 11 years, I thought enough was enough and I had to give up because the corporate life was getting too much for me. And I was getting caught in numbers and, all the kind of things that I was not very comfortable with. And you cannot put numbers on a creative space all the time. And I grew tired of explaining it to the people over there. So I thought now it's better that I quit. So I quit and I was hoping to move into CSR. I even did a bit of studying. I took a few short courses and thought that I will move into that field because it came naturally to me. But along that time is when my daughter had a lot of dreams. She, very strangely, both my children, my son and my daughter, have very great entrepreneurial skills. They certainly don't get them from me. Yeah. Because I'm least interested in starting something on my own. I'm quite happy working for somebody. So just as Akshay had started a whole lot of stuff, Aisha too had her own ideas. And she kept talking about it. And we would just randomly discuss. I mean, there was no thought that I would join her. After about a year or two, things were going and she was beginning to think in ways that interested me. And I thought that, yeah, maybe, I can use the same experience I'm talking about, just mold it differently, package it differently, and use it to work with her. So she started the company and she took me on as partner. So what we are in it's a thought evolution kind of thing. So we are using art forms to help communicate important messages to people, to help them to realize their own call from within, to realize who they are, realize what they want, to introspect, to also then become the human beings that will help them lead better lives. So that's what we're doing through art form. So we don't have PPTs and we don't have too many Gyan sessions. We use elements from theater, from creative movement, from storytelling. So alongside this entire thing, there was also a parallel journey of me becoming a storyteller. I don't like to use the word because it's used very loosely today. Correct. So I'm not a performer storyteller, but I use a lot of storytelling in whatever I'm doing, in my communication classes and in everything. So putting all that together, Aisha and I decided to use all this and we started a company called Aika, which though it comes from our names, Aisha and Kalpana, also means to listen. And we believe that today a lot of problems are because people don't listen.
Correct.
And because they don't listen, an awareness of several kinds is not there. Self-awareness, awareness about the world around them, awareness about nature, awareness about so many things. So through ICA, we've created a couple of programs which we take to corporates and we help. It's a sort of personality development also, you can say, because after going through these sessions, what happens is there's also a lot of realization about where you are in your own life. Incidentally, Aika in Hebrew also means where are you in your journey, in a very spiritual sense.
Wow.
And we figured that out after we started searching for whether Aika is a name that we can register with and things like that. So we've started this company, we have these programs, and other than these programs, we are also doing something which is very interesting. And that is more voluntary. That's not a paid effort as of now. We hope to tie up with people for that. We've created modules using stories, using short films, using games and activities which we create. Except the films, because this is free, we take them off the net. But the stories and everything we write. And we are taking these to underprivileged sections of society. Places like, economically really downtrodden areas. Sure. And we work with the teachers over there and we teach in schools. So we don't teach, we just run these sessions where it's not one of those formal sessions where I tell you what you need to do. I just tell you a story. And 99% of the time, we get the responses that we are looking for through teaching. So for instance, the topics we take are hygiene, gender sensitivity, the environment, abuse, which includes physical, mental, emotional, verbal, and sexual. So all these are topics that we teach. We conduct sessions in through using our modules. And we find that is probably one of the most satisfying things. Now, along the journey, we realized that there was the need to teach and to educate people on mental health.
Yep.
because there are a lot of people I have interacted with who have been in that space and they've had immense difficulties. And you realize that the world has to become more inclusive. For instance, in our own company, my co-founder has a problem. She will not answer phone calls. Now, that is an issue that she has. How do we overcome this issue? Now, when we work with people, they will call back. Now, she will not answer her call. So we educate them on that right in the beginning. We tell them that this is an issue. You okay to work with us? Work with us. Otherwise, we're okay not working with you. And we have found, much to our surprise, that there are lots of people who actually understand. Because if you send her a message or you send her a mail, she will respond in minutes. Now, this is bringing in inclusiveness or inclusivity in a very small way. But we are hoping that as we take these sessions to, so we use a lot of words very loosely, like saying pagal or saying that fellow is mad. It's something that we do like it comes naturally to us. But do we know what goes on behind somebody's, in somebody's mind for him or her to behave in a certain way? So we are now also tackling mental health. And we're hoping that there will be a world which will be more inclusive. So these are things we're doing through what we call Jam Hands. That is the wing in our company which attends to these kind of issues. So we haven't started monetizing it. We're just doing it out of sheer interest and because we understand the need to bring in tolerance, understanding, and all that in the communities around us.
Okay. So if there's anyone other than my mother-in-law who's listening in, is there an email ID that you would like to give out?
Most certainly.
People can get in touch with you. We'll also paste a link to your Facebook page. Is there a Facebook page that somebody can get in touch with you?
What I can do is I can send you all the links. I can give you the mail IDs. There are two mail IDs. One is Kalpana at ayeka.co.in and the other is Aisha at aika.co.in.
Can I interrupt? We'll create a separate one just for this instead of our.
Okay. Sheldon Aisha says we'll create a separate one, a separate ID only for this so that, we will be able to address it because the rest will be lost in the mails that we get at work.
Okay, fine.
Those are our official mail IDs.
Cool. So Random Genius is also very committed to spreading awareness about mental health. We feel very strongly about this issue. And the fact that people don't talk about it enough and there's a lot of misinformation out there.
Absolutely.
And the fact that people don't need to be ashamed of it, right? It should be treated like any other illness.
Right. So Sheldon, I had this little incident I'd like to share with you.
Sure.
When I went to one of the schools where I was, doing these sessions with them, it was a school you can't call it a school. It's a space where children from the slum areas around someplace in Patna could come and study for an hour or two every evening, and they were given a snack, which was the incentive. So they would come and learn about computers, learn English.
Okay.
And every time I go there to teach communication skills in the college close by, I would go and take these sessions. So one day I heard one child call somebody mad. And there's a student who helps me with my sessions because this is a rather large group. So we decided, let's do mental health for 3 days. So we did it by explaining to them, or we just started off without saying anything about mental health. We started out with stories of the body. Yeah.
Okay.
And what the lungs do and what the heart does and what the stomach does and what your ears and your nose and your hands and your legs do and what happens when these don't work. And slowly the next day we led on to how do you think? Like how do you eat? How do you breathe? And how do you walk? We went on to how do you think and how do you respond and how do you react? And then we brought in the whole the factor that it was the brain that was responsible. So then they slowly learned to understand, or over this story or through the story, they understood that the brain is also just another organ in the body. Like, so I said, if you have a tummy upset, do you just sit there or do you tease people who go to the loo very often? The answer was no. So I said, if somebody is wheezing, do you give him a nickname because he's wheezing? Because he's wheezing, do you say, because his favorite have problem, do you say something that's related to that, or do you call him some funny name? Then they said, no, we don't. We go to the doctor. I said, exactly. So now what happens if your brain has a problem? They said, maybe it will affect the way you think and respond. I said, exactly. So that's also another organ. So don't you think if we're attending to the stomach and we're attending to the lungs and the hands and the legs and the liver and the kidney, that we also need to attend to the brain? So it's just another part of the body. So what's a big deal about it? So why are we keeping names? And after a few days, one boy came and said, yeah, I realized I was shouting out pagal pagal to somebody, and that's probably what prompted you to do this. I never thought of it this way. I won't in future. So I didn't tell him he was wrong. I didn't start off by saying, hey, I heard one of you say somebody else is pagal. Correct. I just said, today let's talk about the body. So anything that's imposed on people, they will resent, because that's being rebellious is something that comes naturally to most human beings. Yeah. But if you make it a collaborative thing, if I just show you a picture and you read what I'm trying to tell you, both of us are on the same page. Yeah. So I never told them that it is wrong to say mad. Don't call somebody mad. Or I never said wash your hands after you eat. I just created Aisha and I wrote a story about a child who had problems, and while telling the story, I would show them various places where the child probably picked up these viruses or diseases or whatever. Yeah. Correct. And they would point it out. So they would say the child is falling ill because of this. Now that way they learn faster. Rather than me having told them, did you see that source of water was open? Or did you see that he didn't wash his hands? That will be there for 15 minutes and they'll forget the moment they leave. Correct. But if they figured it out themselves, there is no way they will forget it. So that's something I learned, that don't be didactic all the time and give lessons to people. Just make them part of that journey and everything will be fine. Awesome. So we're going to conclude with a final question. Yeah. In one sentence, what makes KLO KLO? For people who have not met you. What makes KLO KLO? The awesome human beings around me make me KLO. Otherwise, I would have been just another Kalpana. Awesome. Thank you, Miss Awesomeness. Oh, thank you so much. Continue to power on in your journey. We wish you all the best and thank you so much for your time. And thank you so much. I'm touched that you think there was something in my journey to share. Of course. Honored. Yeah. All the best. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Wish you all the best too. Take care. Bye. Bye.